Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's podcast. Our guest of today is Luis, and he's the founder at Unstoppable Living. And yeah, when I heard the name, I got pretty intrigued. Hey, what is it about? And yeah, can you tell a little bit more about yourself and what the company is doing?
Yeah, sure. So, that's a really great introduction, but my business really focuses on helping businesses do better at supporting their disabled employees. And that is by offering them a multitude of services from helping them with accessibility of their workspaces, but also their digital systems as well. So, their intranet, website, and any other external platforms that they might be using. And then some of the other work is around diversity and inclusion and really helping them create environments where anyone, no matter their ability, can thrive. And obviously, I use my own lived experience of having a disability to achieve that.
Very nice. And towards all the companies which are out there, what kind of
Sorry, you might have to repeat that question.
yeah, out of all the companies you are working with, which type of company benefits the most from what you are doing?
Wow, that's a very subjective question. I think ultimately an organization that makes use of my expertise and my knowledge and my skills and using that, harnessing that to create their own internal capacity to be able to continue the journey without me being around is probably going to be the ones that succeed the most. I usually only really work with organizations where I can see that this is something they truly want to focus on. And it's a little bit scary because as a new business on the block, so to speak, it's not always the greatest financial sense to say no to projects because you can always do with a better cash flow. But ultimately, I don't want to go and share my skills and expertise within an organization where it's going to be shelved once I leave and they're not going to continue that journey whilst I'm not around. I want to build a reputation of being someone who comes in and becomes part of the organization that helps you achieve the goals that you want to achieve, not someone who's there for a tick box exercise or because it's a specialized discipline day or event that they're trying to host for PR, because that does happen sometimes.
And I'm curious, what would you say, like, the clients you work with in the past, what would they say it's unique about working with you?
So it would probably be my candid approach. I'm not afraid to say things how it is. I think very often when we talk about subjects or topics within an organization that make us feel uncomfortable, we try and use the rainbows and fairy dust type of language, the polite, soft approach. And sometimes, especially with the work that I focus on, you have to be brave enough to challenge a CEO and say, you're still not getting it. You have a risk to your business, you have a problem that we're trying to solve, and it's not going to work unless you come on board and actually acknowledge that this is a real problem that needs to be solved. I remember speaking at an event last year, and I equated the average wheelchair user's experience in a standardized disability toilet as me cutting a 2-inch hole in the wall, 1.2 meters off the floor, and telling the average person, no matter their sex or height, that that's the hole they have to use when they go to the bathroom for anything that they want to do in the bathroom. Just that straightforward approach is really just helping people come out of their tunnel vision and actually seeing the things that they're not seeing.
Very nice. So kind of like,
I often refer to it as compassionate brutality.
yeah. So kind of what you're saying, kind of getting people out there like a habitual way of thinking and giving them a new
Hmm.
perspective on how things can be done.
Absolutely.
And what would you say, right, like towards in your experience, maybe even before the company and you growing the company, what are some of the biggest challenges you have faced towards growing the company where it is today? And how did you solve those challenges? Because I'm sure as a founder, and there are a lot of founders watching this podcast, it's a lot of problem solving every day. So I'm curious what your
Yeah,
perspective is on that.
that's so true. I think most people who start a business don't realize what's waiting for them and what are some of the hurdles that they can face. I think for me is when you move away from a brand that you became really well known under, and you now are waving a new flag of a different business or your own business, it's almost like you are starting again, like you're the new kid on the block. So for me, it was making sure that I'm not losing out on opportunities, that I can shout the loudest about my business and what I do. LinkedIn this year has been extremely vital for me, making sure that I maintain my consistency, because over the last 3 years, I never really had to worry about that because I was employed, working for a brand that had its own reputation. It had customers coming to it rather than us going to them. So that made life a lot easier. But when you start from scratch, like I've done, it's kind of remembering about those important day-to-day things that help you stay on top of everything. Not being afraid to accept advice, or ask for advice. So I've been on a couple of accelerator programs that have added a lot of value to my user journey as a business owner. Not I'm not gonna sit here and lie and say I'm a prolific entrepreneur and I know what I'm doing, because that would be a lie. I've had to make mistakes and learn from those mistakes, and sometimes it's been more valuable to go on an accelerator program because it allowed me to identify areas where I was making a mistake and to fix them before it's too late. So that's really helpful. And I think key for any new business is making sure you're getting out there, going to networking events. You'll see in a couple of weeks' time, I'm going to be posting on LinkedIn a photo of all the lanyards I've collected this year alone from the events I've been attending and the networking events where my ideal clients are supposed to be hanging out in order to get that exposure, because I find that the magic does for me is when people hear me speak, they see me in action. That's when they get interested, or when they sense that there's something special here that we need in our business. And for me, those two things together, the accelerator program and going out there to events and networking events, has really been a game changer for me this year.
Very nice. I like what you're saying when people actually see you speak, right? And that's also the power of doing a podcast, because you can have the best business in the world, but when you actually speak and people can feel your energy, you can build trust. Same thing with
Exactly.
events. What are some of the ways how you are acquiring, like maybe you touched on it a little bit, but what are some of the ways how you are acquiring new customers at the moment?
Yeah, so a lot of it is outreach. If I'm honest, it's very few and far between where people are coming to me. But I'm noticing that that's changing the further I'm going down this road. Um, I've had someone reach out to me actually yesterday on LinkedIn, who used to work for a company I'm currently supporting and was catching up with one of their ex-colleagues, and my name came up, and that made him want to reach out and learn a little bit more about what I do because of how well I'm supporting the business where he used to work. So that's really cool. I guess for any business owner that requires clients, it's always nice when they come to you first rather than you having to go find them. But it's really hard to have a definitive answer to this question, because it could be someone that's latched onto a piece of content that I had on social media and then started following me or joining my networks, and then seeing all the other work that I do apart from just that post that they saw, and then that prompts them to reach out, or people that I know from being on stage a year ago. Those things count, but at the moment it's not enough incoming traffic. So for me, it's important that I'm always posting and that the messages are clear and that they're relatable and understandable, and that when I have an opportunity to speak to someone face to face, like I'm talking to you or in person, that I'm backing up all of that evidence that's out there in the public domain, that I'm the same person from the post, the same person that delivers the work, because I think that quite often that matters to clients.
Very nice. And did you watch like Harry Potter when you were younger or read the books?
Yeah, we have a ritual in our family where we watch all the Harry Potter movies over Christmas, so we watch it every year.
Nice. And let's say You can be Harry Potter for like one day. Let's say
Uh-huh.
maybe even during Christmas when you're watching the movies with the family. And with being Harry Potter for one day, you can hold this magic wand. And with this magic wand, you could solve any problem in the business right now in just one day. What kind of problem would you choose if you could be Harry Potter for one day with the magic wand?
My business or a client's business?
No, your own business.
Probably going 3 or 4 years into the future when all the hard work to establish a well-known brand has been done because it's very taxing. I thought that when I started this business, I thought that it was going to be smooth sailing, and that I can rest when I want to rest and work when I want to work. But the reality is, when it's a new business, you can't do that. You have to put in the hard hours and the sweat and tears now, so that you can do that in the years to come. So yes, it would probably be to propel myself to 3 4 years down the line, where I've had the time to do all the hard work and build a reputation for the business, and hopefully have some employees that are working for me, because right now I'm a one-man band, and that just means that I don't have time to rest sometimes. That's just the price you pay as a business owner.
Right, so kind of in this phase right now where you're kind of working to build this foundation, and then a couple of years down the line, hey, I built this foundation. I'm in a pretty solid spot right now. But before to get there, it's a lot of hard work, which I think a lot of founders who are watching this podcast are kind of resonating with that.
Yeah, there are other smaller goals that I want to try and work towards. I believe in helping community first, so it would be nice to be in a position where I can do a little bit more local work, so local to where I live. Some of that will be volunteer work, and some of it will be paid work. But ultimately, it's something that I chose at the beginning of this year, that I'm going to try and find pathways to support local, and then go wider. Because to be fair, most of my big clients are in London and other major cities across the UK. So being able to give something back locally would really make me happy.
Very nice. And I think life is all about like, just like, it's like I had this call with a founder the other day, and it's all about like making money should never be the goal. It should be like how can you actually like, provide value? And if you provide value as much as you can, money's gonna come.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And talking about this, right? What are some of the goals you're having with the company for the next, let's say, 6 to 12 months from now?
It's a good question. So some of that answer is really taking the time over the quiet period. So for me, usually my quiet period is December and January, and this is usually where I brainstorm and think about what are some of the things I can do differently, catching up with my coach and brainstorming some things and unpacking things with my development coach, because I think it's very easy to have a conversation with yourself and get lost in your own thoughts. And it's always better when you have someone challenging you to stretch you further than what you thought you could go. But I think over the next 6 to 12 months, it would be about making sure that I have a steady income stream, rather than wait from project to project to decide whether I'm going to survive or not. So for me, it will be about looking at some of the bigger pictures and the larger organizations who have the right budgets to embed me within their team, because I think that's where I can add my most value, is if I'm embedded within your team who's responsible for a certain function. I can help solve problems on the fly and build that capacity and knowledge for them over a long period of time, rather than just coming in and doing a workshop or a speaking engagement and hoping that you're going to carry that further when I leave. So I think it would be focusing on how I can, I guess, evidence the value that clients will get from working with me on a more long-term basis than just a one and done type approach.
Very nice. And what are, if you like, for the founders and the people watching this podcast right now, if you, from all the knowledge experience you have, right, from your own career, your own personal life, you growing your own company, solving those challenges, what's one piece of advice you would give to these founders who are watching this podcast right now, and they can start implementing this advice straight away after watching it today? What kind of advice would you give to these people?
Yeah, so I didn't call my business Unstoppable Living for nothing, right? There's a reason behind that. I believe that as individuals, we can all be unstoppable if we choose to. Yes, there will be things that get in our way, but it doesn't mean we have to give up. I have lived, I grew up in a country in South Africa where there wasn't a lot of support for people like myself who have disabilities, and it made life really hard. More than half of my time spent trying to build a career in South Africa was being unemployed because businesses couldn't support me. So I had to carve my own path. I had to find my own way. And yes, it's a lot better now that I'm in the UK because the topic of disability has a place on the center stage. But ultimately, it was that decision to say, yes, I am unstoppable, and no matter what gets in my way, I will get there in the end. And that's the kind of perseverance that founders and business owners and major CEOs are going to have because there's always going to be a challenge that a business has to face. It's not, okay, we've solved the problem now, we can just sit back and relax. There will always be something else that you have to focus on, whether it's revenue, whether it's staff, whether it's culture, whether it's access, whether it's digital access. It doesn't matter. There will always be something that you can focus on, and that resilience is going to be really important to achieve that.
Yeah, I really like that. Like it's actually we can as a founder we can build all we want, right? We can have the most amazing service, but like it starts with the foundation. Are you actually like do you have a strong like why? Like are you passionate about what you're doing? And if you have, right, do you have this perseverance to go for your best reality for yourself, for your business, for your life, no matter what happens, right? And if you do that, like eventually you're gonna come at a very nice position because your mindset is already aligned towards the reality where you want to go. Yeah, very nice. And like Luis, what are some of the ways they can connect either with you or the company?
Yeah, so I have really high standards and morals, so I don't have a website right now because I don't have the ability to make it accessible like I know it should be. So right now my website is LinkedIn. That's kind of my most active platform at the moment. There are some plans to expand onto others a bit more effectively, but LinkedIn is usually the go-to place. I'm on there every day. If I don't reply today, you'll definitely get a reply tomorrow. So reaching out to me there. I am on Instagram and TikTok, but um, it's more about my life as a disabled person rather than work. So business related, definitely LinkedIn's the place to go.
Very nice, Luis. Thanks so much for being on the podcast, sharing your value, talking about your background, talking about your advice you would give to those people who are watching it right now. And for everyone who's watching the podcast, I'm gonna make sure to put the links of Luis and the company down in the description below so you can easily find it. Thanks everyone for tuning in and see you all in the next episode. Thank you, Luis.
See you.